was the 140 going around that bend, would have been facing the other way. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today guys, behind me here we have the new BMW M135i. Now this car I've managed to get my hands on from sitting in Solihull, so a huge shout out to Jordan Smith over there. If you're in need of any kind of new cars or used cars, please hit up Jordan Smith, who's been able to source me this nice looking M135i. So as you know guys, the M135i has taken a lot of slack for not being rear wheel drive, not having a 6-cylinder engine, you know, gone kind of all wheel drive and 4-pot and that kind of a thing. I'm not really going to jump onto the bandwagon and start, you know, dissing this car for those reasons. I personally think it's a more of a direct competitor to the Mercedes A35, the Golf R, the S3, the Honda Civic Type R, all which boast around the 306 horsepower and around the 400 Newton meters of torque. This one again, it is a 2-litre turbo engine, 306 horsepower, 450 Newton meters of torque, so a little bit more torquey compared to those cars. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this vid. What we'll do is very quickly we'll take you around the car, show you some of the features, and then hit those country lanes and take you from there. So here we have our M135i finished in the sapphire black, I believe it is. The looks on this car are subjective. A lot of people don't like how the front end looks. You know, some say it looks like an A-Class, or you know, the rest of the crop of front wheel drive cars. It is what it is. I mean, let's not forget when the F40 1 Series came out initially in 2013, even that wasn't really, you know, a pretty car. So I guess over time BMW might address some of those issues. But as a 135i derivative, you get some telltale signs. You got this spindled grille down there in a bronze color, and then moving down the front end here you've got these air ducts as well in the same color, and obviously we've got the mirror covers as well. This car has got 2 packs on it. One of the option packs is the 135i Plus pack, I believe, which gives it the 19-inch alloy wheels. These tyres are the Continental Contact Sport 6 tyres, not the best tyre. I had this tyre initially on my Civic Type R, kind of chewed it within like 8,000 miles. But with the 135i Plus pack you do get the blue calipers. I really do think that from this rear 3/4 view, that's probably the best kind of profile of the car. And obviously we've got the 2 exhaust pipes, one on each side. I am on my own today, so I'm not sure how we're going to do the drive-bys, if any, but I'll give you a start up and some revs. 135i, the name is back, and obviously we've got the X-Drive. So let's move on to the interior of the car. A huge step forward in terms of interior build quality over the F20 series. The interior layout is very similar to my G23 series. You've got the 12-inch LCD iDrive 7 screen there, and then you got the driver's display down here, which again is full on LCD. This one's got the tech pack as well, which obviously means it's got the head-up display, the Harman Kardon sound system. It doesn't have adaptive, so normally you'd have the adaptive suspension setup button there, but this one doesn't have it, I believe, and I could be wrong, but adaptive is only available with the 18-inch wheel setup. I don't know why that is, but I think I read that somewhere. I could be wrong. So this is now the power plant of this new M135i. For all the M140i fan base out there, this is a huge disappointment because it's now a 4-pot turbo engine rather than the sonorous 6-cylinder B58 unit. This is codenamed the B48. It's a 2-litre engine. This produces 306 horsepower mated to the 8-speed non-ZF gearbox. This has about 450 Newton meters of torque. It is a single turbo, and this engine has been lifted straight out of like BMW's other cars and Mini's other cars as well. So for example, the 330i on the G20 has the same engine, and obviously the Mini Cooper S has the same engine as well. And obviously it's been mounted that way rather than in line. and the reason for that is because on the 1 Series cars they're all obviously front wheel drive, and hence why the engine has to be mounted that way. One thing to note here though is the car already comes with a front strut brace, as you can see here. So it'll be interesting to see how this car actually corners with 306 horsepower. Obviously going through an all-wheel drive system, it's going to handle that power better compared to, like say, the Honda Civic Type R's, which I've had plenty of seat time in over the years. So what we're going to do now, guys, is just hit those lanes and give you my first kind of impressions on this car. So before we hit those lanes, we'll give the car a start up with some revs. I am on my own today, so I'm not sure how we're going to get the camera on the rear end. I don't even have a camera mount or anything, but I'll do my best anyway. So here we go, the first startup of the car. Put the car straight away into sports mode and let's rev it. So yeah, it doesn't sound like a 6-cylinder, it's a 4-pot. There's a few overrun pops and bangs, but nothing too like extravagant. But let's get it on the road, because it's all about the drive now, isn't it? So the M135i, what's it like? I'm not gonna kind of compare this to the outgoing M140i. I mean, I had one of them for like 2.5 years, and you know, it's completely different to that. I'm not really going to compare it to that. In this video, what I'm going to do is obviously try and somehow compare it to cars like the Mercedes A35, the Civic Type R's, and you know, Golf R's and the S3s. Now in terms of outright power, like I said before, this car has 306 horsepower running through all-wheel drive system. It has got a LSD on the front wheels, and we're going to try and exploit how that kind of works and how that makes the car handle around some tight corners, and then also how this gearbox is, because this is not the outgoing 8-speed ZF, it's an 8-speed, but it's made by another company. So from behind the wheel, the seats, the steering, the driving position, the seats are really nice. They're not leather, they're kind of the Alcantara. The longevity of the Alcantara is kind of questionable, because I had some Alcantara seats in my Type R and they started to wear out from the bolsters as you kind of coming in and out of the car. So there is that, but the seat itself is quite supportive. You do feel quite snug in them. The support around, like say, the side bolsters, again, you can bring them in, is pretty good. And you know, like the kind of steering feel as well, it's direct and it just feels like, you know, you are part of the car. Steering is nice and chunky. Literally just lifted out of like say any other BMW right now. It's got the same kind of feel, and the kind of touch points of it is exactly the same as it is in my G23 series. In fact, the whole kind of dash design as well is kind of lifted out of BMW's bigger cars, like the kind of Z4, the 8 series basically, and sort of filtered down into BMW smaller cars like the 3 and now in this F40 1 series. This one obviously has got the head-up display, so that's quite nice to have. And just generally the cabin feels a little bit bigger compared to the F20 series. Look how tight it is around these corners. So this particular car, I'm going to just keep driving it in like the sport mode all the way through. I don't see the point in putting it into comfort mode. Again, this doesn't have the adaptive suspension, and you can feel that the suspension setup in this is quite firm riding on the passive. It's not as firm as the outgoing 140 with the passive setup. There's a little bit more compliance in this, and also a point to note, this car is riding on 19-inch wheels with the Conti tyres, which, let's face it, they're not the best kind of tyres out there. Yesterday I was at Motec having my M4 lowered and spaced, and they've obviously picked up a 135i for the development, and they're developing a for spring kit, lowering kit and spacers in conjunction with iBack. So there'll be quite a few options coming out on this car when obviously you're looking to get it lowered. Right, so I'm now going to put the car's in sport mode anyway. Put my foot down. Bloody hell, it does take off, the 0 to 60 time in this is something like 4.8 seconds, and yeah, it's slower than the 140, no doubt. But when you compare this to the A35, it literally just pulls. There is that additional torque, might only be like say 50 Newton meters, but it's there when you want it. I mean, this is my initial impression video of the car. I'm just gonna put it through some corners here. What's interesting there is around that corner, it was like a kind of like an S kind of chicane. When you went through that corner there, it felt like the car clawed you into the corner, and then as you exited the corner, the power shifted to the rear wheels and it kind of propelled you out. So it can send, I believe, like 50% of its power to the rear wheels, or you can definitely feel that power being shifted from the front axle to the rear. I mean, it's not as quick as a M140i off the line, you do feel that, but from a point-to-point car on these twisties, the M140i's, the 6-cylinder cars, they're not going to keep up with this. The way this thing goes, I'm on the familiar roads where I always drive, my cars, and I know how my 140 used to go around here, and this is a step forward from driving dynamics, definitely. The sound is a bit of a letdown, but to be honest with you, it's the same as what you get in all the other kind of 4-part cars anyway, so it's not like it's completely let down. I mean, there's cars out there that don't sound as good as this, like for example the Hyundai i30N 2-litre turbo engine, yes, low on horsepower, front wheel drive. The Honda Civic Type R's FK8, same horsepower, front wheel drive. They don't sound anywhere as nice as this. Admittedly, there's going to be a lot of that sound actuated through the speakers, as most BMWs are these days. You do get a little bit of, like say, induction bushing going on from under the bonnet. You don't get a lot of those kind of pops and bangs. Drop it down a few clogs. Yeah, I mean, it's a quick car, guys. Like the in-gear shove in this as well, it's fairly quick. Some more twisties here. Yeah, that was the 140 going around that bend. Would have been facing the other way. I mean, you can't just disregard this car for the way it is now. 4-part all-wheel drive compared to 6 parts and rear-wheel drive setup. I mean, it's just the way things are going these days. I read the other day that the next AMG C63 is going to be a 4-part hybrid technology with 450, 500 horsepower perhaps. I mean, if you think about it, the A45 that's going to be launched in the not so distant future now, that's going to have a 400 horsepower 2-litre turbo engine. So it's a great base to kind of start with, and add electrification to boost the horsepower. But it's just the way it is. That's just how things are going. Gearbox, I'm sure over time there'll be software updates and what have you, but at the moment it just feels just that little bit not as responsive as the 8-speed ZF, and that could be just like teething problems with, like say, the launch of this car. But overall, guys, I am hugely impressed with this, and I'm not biased with like my reviews, and it's no exception here. Ultimately, if you want that kind of rear wheel drive setup and the 6-pot engine, you might as well stick with the M140i, because like I've said many times before, it's the dying breed. It's now dead. You're not going to get any more of those. So if you got one of those cars and you don't really like downsizing, then yeah, just absolutely stick with those. You'd be happy as anything. But you do need to try one of these 135i's just to kind of get your head around what it feels like and spend a bit of time, not like a little test drive. I've had this car best part of a day, and I've decided to kind of like go out and give you my thoughts on this car pretty much after about 4 or 5 hours of driving. It does get down the road really well, guys, and it actually handles those corners. I mean, a better tyre setup on this car would ultimately, like, make it complete, because these Conti tyres, they're not the best. The 4S, Michelin 4S tyres would do a better job of that. Again, got quite a bit of experience with those tyres in the past, so, and on these roads, so definitely know how they would feel. But overall, guys, I am impressed with this car as a package. So what do I then think of the new M135i? I personally like it. I think BMW have nailed it with this car. Nailed it to that point, as in, a 4-pot turbo engine, all-wheel drive, directly competing with the likes of the A35, the Golf R, the S3, and the like. I think it's a real driver-focused car for what it is. You definitely feel connected with this car, unlike the cars like the S3s and the A35, where there's a lot of wobble going on and you don't really feel the car when you're pushing it through those corners. But this has got that clever LSD that closes you into the corners and then shifts the power to the rear wheels and pulls you out, and you do get that kind of a pushing sensation if you are still like looking for that rear wheel drive kind of setup. It is the way all manufacturers are going. They are downsizing, so it is going to be the car that you're going to get as a hot hatch sort of proposition. It's not a direct replacement for the M140i. That is something that you've got to really get under the skin and really understand, because it's not. Styling is subjective. I do like the way the car looks from this angle. I'm not a fan of the front, I'll be honest, but I do like how you've still got those twin exhaust pipes on the rear. Anyway, guys, I hope you have found this video useful, informative to a degree. If you're looking for a car like this, a lot of the tech in this car I will cover, because I have got the same tech in the G20. So do consider subscribing if you're looking for that kind of a content. I will be continuing my kind of content on the G20 as well as on my new car, which is the M4. So if you are interested in those, then again consider subscribing. A huge thanks to Sit in the Solihull Jordan Smith, who sourced me this car for a few hours today. It's getting a bit windy now, isn't it? Hopefully, guys, I'm going to wrap up here and you've enjoyed this video. Do subscribe, give it a like, share as well, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye.